What if I told you the most common advice to ranking up in Rocket League is a complete lie? I would be grossly exaggerating if I said that, but so many people die on this hill that the best way to rank up is gamesense. And then they'll say things like, you don't need flashy mechanics to rank up, just improve your positioning and then you'll suddenly get better. Now, gamesense is important, but I think people severely underestimate mechanics. It doesn't matter how good of a decision you make if you can't execute that decision. If you know, I should control this ball, I should beat this defender, I should shoot at the top left corner because they're on the right side. None of that matters if you can't do it. And on the other hand, you could have all the mechanical consistency in the world, but if you don't know what decision to make, half the time you're going to be making the wrong one, and you're just simply not going to be able to rank up. So the question isn't, is gamesense or mechanics more important for ranking up? The question should be, which one limits your improvement more? Because by deciding which one limits your improvement more, you can then say, okay, if gamesense limits my progress more, I should put more time into working on gamesense, and I should put more hours into practicing gamesense. But is this really the case for most Rocket League players? Is the average Rocket League player going to find it harder to learn what decisions to make, or the mechanical ability to execute those decisions? If you clicked on this video, you probably already understand what mechanics and gamesense are, but I still think it's helpful to define those terms. Mechanics is your physical ability to control your car and the ball. That would include shooting, first touches, recoveries, aerial control, flicks, speed. And gamesense is the ability to make correct decisions. That would be your positioning, rotations, the timing of your challenge, reading the nose of your opponents. While fundamentally you can separate mechanics and gamesense, on a practical level you can't, because your mechanics influence your gamesense. For example, the better you are at car control, the better you're going to be able to decide what people are going to be able to do in the air. So, for example, if you're better mechanically, you could realize quicker that someone's missing a double tap, and you need to just play the miss. But fundamentally, gamesense creates the opportunity, and mechanics convert that opportunity into results. Now, this is different from many games because in a lot of games, just knowing the right decision is enough. Chess is kind of the perfect example of a game where gamesense is all you need. Like, the only mechanics are pressing your clock if you're playing online, pre-moving, if you're playing in person, actually showing up to the board on time. But other than that, it's just gamesense. In Rocket League, you're very limited if you only know what to do, and you're not actually able to do it. I think apparently Jack said it best, and I'm paraphrasing here, but gamesense is choosing the best option, and mechanics gives you the options to choose from. The better your mechanics, the more options you have to choose from, and the more ways you have to beat your defender. And at lower ranks, you don't need many mechanics. Simply clearing the ball away hard, making good contact with the ball. All you have to do for it is just not make a mistake, and then your opponent will make a mistake. At higher ranks, it's a little more complicated, because if you simply boom the ball to the backboard and hope they miss, they can set up a counterattack off of that, and then you're suddenly the one defending, and that wasn't the best play in the position. So as you rank up, you need to start adding more tools to your arsenal. You need to be able to control the ball, you need to be able to dribble, you need to be able to flick, fake, air dribble. All these mechanics, even fakes, require mechanical execution. The better defenders get, the more options you need to be able to beat them. And compared to a game like Counter-Strike, all the decisions in Rocket League are undeniably simple. And at lower ranks, people are still working through all these things, but the higher you go, players have these gamesense concepts down. And you're not just going to be able to win by capitalizing on large mistakes in gamesense. In fact, the gamesense at lower levels doesn't even compare to the gamesense at high levels. At lower levels, you don't need to challenge as quickly because opponents don't have as many options. So you can let them throw the ball to you, and you don't have to force the ball off them to your teammate behind you. Because a lot of times, your teammate behind you won't even know what to do with the ball. They won't be able to control it, they won't be able to set up a counterattack, they may boom the ball away, miss an easy clear, it could just be open for your opponents. I also think it would be difficult to find an example of someone with SSL mechanics and SSL mechanical efficiency that's stuck at a low rank. Because once you get to a certain point, no matter how good someone is in terms of games, no matter how smart someone is, no matter how good of decisions they make, they're just not going to be able to beat you if you're just mechanical enough. To be fair, you can have great mechanics and still be bad, but this doesn't mean game sense is more important. It means both skills are necessary. And since mechanics take so much longer to improve and are more difficult to improve than game sense, it makes more sense to spend more hours working on mechanics. It's undisputed that Rocket League is one of the hardest mechanical games, especially at the top level. So that should be the main thing that you focus on. If you build the foundation, if you focus on what's hardest, you'll be able to incorporate what comes easiest most efficiently. And people say all the time that you learn game sense by playing ranked, but you also learn bad habits by playing ranked. Playing ranked at a lower level because you are not mechanical enough to perform things at a higher level. If you're not able to go for certain plays that you would need to at a higher level, you're going to be stuck in the cycle of not going for the best play in the position because you're not mechanical enough to be able to do so. So instead of actually learning game sense, you're just reinforcing bad habits. So to kind of conclude this line of thought, what do you actually do to rank up? What you should be spending the most time on is the mechanics that you perform constantly and the mechanics that you need to learn to get to the next level. There will come a point when you need to learn flip resets, but you don't want to learn flip resets too soon if that's not the next step. Always focus on what the next step is instead of trying to immediately incorporate things from the pro level into your own gameplay. This goes for game sense too. There's some things that pros do at the pro level that you will not be able to replicate at your level. They can go for certain challenges that you can't go for because you're not going to be able to recover quick enough. So while game sense is very important, mechanics are the foundation of Rocket League, and mechanics are where you should spend the most time. You should be focusing on mechanics that you need, practicing them very deliberately. I made another video on that, you should check it out. Deliberate practice is the number one way to improve in anything. It's the number one way to learn, inside and outside of Rocket League. So I highly recommend watching that video and then taking the principles from it and applying it to your own gameplay.